This show happens because of WebCentral, creators of beautifully effective websites for small businesses. Grab an exclusive listener deal over at webcentral.com.au/Timbo. And Design Crowd, the world's #1 custom design marketplace where you get a great design you love, guaranteed, or your money cheerfully refunded. There's an exclusive VIP offer waiting for you over at designcrowd.com/Timbo. Today's guest is a 19-year-old high school dropout making millions. Oh, I don't know, the young people of today.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to another episode of Australia's #1 marketing show, the Small Business Big Marketing Show, actually. I'm your host, Timbo Reid, but you, so much more importantly, are a motivated business owner and you're ready and willing to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it deserves to be. And I tell you what, that is all we do around here, day in, day out, helping you achieve that. We've got a big show today. Chris Kelsey. Oh, it kills me. A 19-year-old high school dropout who's now a San Francisco-based app developer, employing 68 people and making gazillions. Yeah, it's one of those cliched stories, I'm afraid. But it's true. I challenged him on it. I've got to tell you, though, he has a very, very liberating view on how to grow a business, which I think you're going to really benefit from. I also tackle a question from a listener who's struggling with the idea of death as a marketing angle. Don't know why. I have some feedback from another listener who considers 2 of my most recent episodes a blessing. And we revisit an old episode that I would put up there in my top 10 of all time. Yeah, I know. Can you guess what it is? As per usual, there is marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. Coming up, we hear from a 19-year-old who's already built a business you and I would die for. But first, take a listen to this.
G'day Timbo, this is Russ Porteous calling. Just jumped in the car heading home, put on my first podcast, and lo and behold, it's Small Business Big Marketing. So I thought I'd give my own little bit of helpful marketing by providing a testimonial about the Rock the Boat tour that you've got coming up shortly. I just wanted to provide listeners with a bit of a background for somebody who's actually been on the trip. You haven't asked me for this testimonial, so this is unsolicited. So I registered earlier this year. I'd considered going on the trip previously, but spending time with Timbo was certainly a big incentive for me, and that has paid off in spades. When you've got one-on-one time with Tim Reid, there is so much value that he delivers on the trip over and above just the experience of the tour itself. So on the trip, you'll get to learn about outsourcing elements of your business. And I heard a statistic recently that 53% of businesses that attempt outsourcing fail. So if you go on the trip, you improve your percentages of success because you'll learn the tips and secrets from professionals. So I can't recommend this tour highly enough, and I think anyone listening who even has an inkling of, trying to improve the efficiency of their own business and profitability should seriously consider and learn more. Just register and find out some more information about the tour. Once again, Timbo, I've really been blessed to spend some time with you and your hosts on the tour. And so I can't recommend it highly enough, and I wish you all the best for the next tour.
Oh, Russo, you are a good fellow. Thank you, buddy. I've had quite a few of you emailing me about this Filipino road trip I'm organising this November, asking me everything from what's the food like to how is my business going to benefit. Well, first things first, team. It's not so much a road trip as it is a business expedition. Much more serious than a road trip. And the food's pretty good. We're talking fertilised duck eggs, pig's trotters, No, I'm only joking. Only joking. The Philippines actually has a very strong American and Korean influence. So we're talking ribs, barbecues, plenty of rice dishes, noodles, all the tasty stuff. But on a much more serious note, the question of how you and your business will benefit from this upcoming tour that I'm running in November, here's 3 ways. Number 1, we visit a huge array of outsourcing options available to you so you can make an informed decision around whether this productivity strategy is right for you. Yeah? It's a good thing to do. Number 2, your mind's going to expand beyond belief as you see what's available beyond the confines of doing business locally. And you know what they say about the mind once expanded, never returns to its original dimensions? And number 3, this could be good or bad. You and I get to hang out in the tour bus. Love a tour bus. For 3 days as we make our way around Manila and surrounding areas. We get to chew the fat. I can help you with your marketing. We can have some fun. I got some dad jokes. So if the Create Freedom Through Outsourcing tour sounds like a fun way to take your business and personal development to the next level, then grab one of the 10 seats available. In fact, at time of recording, there's 7 seats available. All the details found over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/tour. Coming up after this fireside chat, I help a listener overcome a couple of marketing blockages, but right now, let's get stuck in to today's guest, Chris Kelsey. He's 19 years old and started a San Francisco-based app and web development company 2 years ago when he was 17. In fact, not even 2 years ago. It was in December 2014. That has made over $6 million in revenue so far this year. Employing 60-plus staff, he's also built many successful apps, including Premium Wallpapers HD, which received over 40 million downloads and did $8 million in revenue before being sold just last year. Oh, it hurts, doesn't it? Now, you may be thinking, what can I, the seasoned business owner, learn from a 19-year-old? Well, I've got to tell you, I did think that before interviewing him, but my mind has changed. There's some strategies around attracting great clients that he shares. He talks about the importance of thinking big, which I think enough of us don't do. And he attracts A-players into his team and explains how he does that, plus plenty more. He started by explaining his decision to drop out of high school 2 years ago.
So I dropped out on my senior year 6 months before I was going to graduate against the wishes of my parents and pretty much everyone I knew. But I wanted to be an entrepreneur more than anything else at the time. Before that point, I had met with my cousin who was a pharmacist, and he was just very unhappy with his job. I shadowed my dentist, and I realized I didn't want to be a dentist. I was just knocking all of the career choices I thought I wanted for years. And then I thought that the only thing left I had was being an entrepreneur. So I read the book Think and Grow Rich, where they talk about burning your ships and, kind of leaving no way back behind you. So my way of doing that was dropping out of high school to force myself to be an entrepreneur.
What were you like at high school? Were you a troublemaker? Were you studious? Were you completely miserable?
I was a good student. When I left, I had a 4.0 cumulative GPA, which the best you could have.
Yeah, right.
I was a good student. I definitely wasn't a troublemaker. And I just did I was in debate club and in the beginning and stuff, but yeah.
Okay, so at that point, I can imagine the pressure that came upon you from, I'm a parent of 3 teenagers, Chris, so I can imagine those kind of discussions. You'd have pressure from friends, from teachers, from parents. How did you deal with that?
I just ignored it, and I just felt so.
That is the most annoying thing you can say to a father of 3 teenagers.
Yeah, my dad definitely was annoyed. I just ignored it, and I just said I'm going to do this no matter what. And there were many times that my parents had very convincing arguments for me as why I should go back, and I said that I made this decision and I'm going to have to live with it and just keep going with it.
Clearly, you've always been like that. I mean, this is not something that just came along. You are a stubborn, driven individual. Would that be fair to say?
I think I am definitely, like, you could say stubborn in the sense that I've been like that with my ways of how I want things done, but not in the way of dropping out of high school. That was like a crazy thing that I did. Like I never would. I always looked at, someone dropping out of high school as a very negative thing for most of my life. And then I remember that thought coming in my head, like, what if I did that? And then it stuck with me.
Clearly you're here doing this interview with me because I've identified you as someone successful. But I've got to ask, have you ever looked back? Have you ever got the wobbles in those last 2 years and gone, oh my God, I think maybe I made the wrong decision?
I never had any regrets. There were definitely down times in the business, but that was pretty much all in 2015. For example, in June 2015, I went on a trip to Costa Rica, and we had to. So I had 8 employees at the time, I believe 8 employees, and I just paid all of their payroll, and then this client had to pay us $50,000 US, and they didn't pay on time. And it turned out that the client didn't actually have, they had money for the initial payment, but they knew they weren't going to be able to pay the rest. And it so I pretty much ran out of money while I was in Costa Rica, and just that kind of stuff. And then I ended up getting a deal within a week, a new deal online, and it was fine. But, I had some wobbles like that for sure.
Okay. Yeah, we love those clients who think they can afford things and, go ahead knowing they can't.
Don't pay.
Wow, what is it about that? There's a blog post in me that needs to come out around that because I get very angry with people who don't pay bills. Right? You're with me? Chris, normally my interviews don't go down the path of a timeline because I find them boring, but because your timeline is so short, I need to unpack it because we're literally talking less than 2 years. You just mentioned in 2015, you're in Costa Rica, you've already got 8 employees, and you had a client who potentially was going to pay you $50,000. Mate, that's literally months since you left school. Am I right?
Yeah, it was so what happened was at the end of December of 2014, I went on Craigslist and I started looking for people that were saying that they had app ideas. And they, within the first 10 days of messaging someone, I had my first contract for $16,500, $7,500 up front. And then with that money, I hired 2 developers and a designer, and then did that. And then the second contract that I got actually was around $100,000. I'm not saying the exact amount because then the client will know that it was their contract, right. But ish around 100,000. But I mean, and for that deal, the second deal, that was also through Craigslist. And I remember I had 4 or 5 meetings for it. And on the 4th or 5th one, I met the main guy that was funding it, and I showed him the graphics of, the UI of the previous app we're doing. We had 2 or 3 screens done, and I said, I haven't coded any apps before. This is literally the first app that we're worked on, and I only have the UI of it. And he was like, that's fine.
Either that guy is completely delusional or he has a wonderful trust of the young people of today. How do you get someone's trust like that?
I think that it was because I was so young and, he kind of maybe saw something in me because, there's something to be said about when you're younger and doing things. I noticed that if you're, for example, if there's a 15-year-old kid that's running a business that's making X amount of money, it doesn't even matter how much it is. Often people would just be impressed it's a 15-year-old running a business, and I think that factor played in. I think that he also kind of saw himself in me because he was a very successful person as well. I don't want to describe him because I don't know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll get his name out of you before the end of the interview. But okay, that's interesting. So you just found the right person. So at this point in time, you're on Craigslist. You are looking for people because your thing was apps. You'd gone, I'm going to create an apps business.
Apps and websites.
Apps and websites.
Build it.
Well, let's just on that. Why? No shortage of apps and website developers in the world. Possibly, overseas. You're in the States. Going overseas, it's a market that's being disrupted through outsourcing. What made you think that you'd be any better than the other million developers?
It's one of the biggest, it's really like one of the most competitive markets ever.
Ever.
And because there's so many, like, people do not know who to look for in terms of a good developer. So, you hear these people getting like $500K contracts and they're not even, the developers aren't even good or something. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, I actually, all I knew was that a lot of people wanted apps and that I knew I could find developers to do it. And like, I didn't think in the beginning, I didn't really think about, how am I going to stand out? I was just like, I'm going to post on Craigslist and like reply to these posts and see what happens. And then it just happened. And I think that one of the biggest things from a standing out perspective and, I know Peter Vesterbaca, who, he founded Angry Birds, and he was telling me how, no matter what you do, just be different. Like, even if it doesn't necessarily make sense per se, just be different, because, he's very big on branding. And that's one of the things I noticed with how I ran Appsitude. I think, like, one, besides the name being kind of like a silly name, like Appsitude, like it's kind of makes you think about it. Yeah. I think also because I really think that being young helped a lot. I really do, because people don't usually see like when I was 17 or 18 and now 19, they don't usually see like a CEO this age. And that, I think, was actually one of the biggest factors of fueling it, because people would go, well, he's obviously doing something right at a young age. So that made me stand out.
He's a digital native. He lives and breathes this stuff. None of it is alien to him.
Yes, exactly.
He gets it. Hey, Peter Angry Birds, whatever his name was. Let's just go back to that. You met the guy?
Yeah. So, like 2 weeks ago, I've been in Beijing, and he, I was with a group for I was speaking at a conference, and then some of the people that were running the conference invited me to like this beers after. So then I met Peter, and I've met with him a few times now, actually. And then, but he's a really cool guy.
Wow. Boy, he's made an impact.
Yeah, he has.
Good guy?
Yeah, he's really nice.
And his major piece of advice was be different, right?
He had a few. I mean, some of the other ones were like move to Beijing and learn Chinese. But yeah, the main one that from a business perspective was be different.
Move to Beijing and learn Chinese because that's where the population is.
Yeah, I mean, he was just saying that China's a good place to do business, actually.
Okay. Another little business venture that must have funded your way to where you are now is this premium wallpapers app that you created. Can you tell us about that? Yeah, so
it was an app that we actually did that for a client. So it was a wallpapers app that you can select different wallpapers and everything, and it had over 40 million downloads before it was sold. And so
wallpapers for your phone or for your computer?
Yeah, for your Android phone. It was only on Android. Yeah. So we actually, I didn't get any money from that. That was for the client. And that's actually, so we started Appsitude Accelerator about 2 months ago, and that's because a lot of very successful apps, and it was contract based, so we got paid well, to build the apps and market them and stuff. But I was like, wow, like even if I had 5-10% of that, which because we were for a lot of the apps we helped the marketing and everything. Mm-hmm. I realized like we're missing out on. I think we're being stupid by not sharing equity or anything,
You do that now?
Yeah. So now our new site isn't up yet, but we have the Appsitude Accelerator site that's coming out soon. And that's essentially like people have to fill an application. And then if we partner with them, then we also help invest in their startup and like really help with the whole process, like all the processes.
Yeah, gotcha. I want to go back to the timeline because again, it's a short one because I just want to understand where you are, because where you are now is quite, so you're doing millions of dollars in turnover. I'm going to get you to wrap some numbers around where the business is at, but we left the timeline where you'd done the wallpaper job. You'd had a client who couldn't pay you $50,000, but then you got another one. You got one who was $100,000 client. Where was the tipping point for you, Chris, where the business really took off?
So it was kind of a mix of okay, well, for example, by the end of 2015, we had $500K in revenue. And, like, we had done, and 300K profit. Like, so we had done well, but I had said that I wanted to be like a multimillionaire before the end of 2015, and I wasn't. And I looked back at what I did wrong, and I realized that I wasn't really dedicating as much energy as I thought to, getting new business. Like, I was focusing on, I think I was like not thinking big enough. Mm-hmm. And so the tipping point, from a general business being successful perspective, we already were technically successful by the first year. But then 2016, when things really took off in terms of, becoming a multi-million-dollar company, it was, okay, so February, we had, February of this year, we got a contract for $370,000. And that, so for example, February we had like 50K in revenue, and then January we had 50K revenue of this year, and then February all of a sudden we get this contract and a few others, and in total it was like around $420,000 in revenue for February. Mm-hmm. And for my mind, I'm like, we just made pretty much what we made the entire last year in 1 month.
Yep.
And it was because there was a group of 3 lawyers that wanted to do an app. And they just put their money together and, they funded it. And I was like, in my mind, I'm, thinking, holy crap. Like I didn't think that would actually happen. Like I knew that before we could get like 100K or something, but 370K was like almost 4 times the biggest contract we'd had before,
Yep.
So I was completely just shocked. And I said, I'm sure we could keep doing this more and more. So then I started focusing more on, getting bigger deals. And that's kind of what just kept happening from there.
So you're not a coder, right?
No, I've done basic websites. When I was 13, I started doing some basic coding of websites, but in terms of apps and that kind of thing, no.
So you're the business guy. In February of this year, you get the $370,000 contract. I'm guessing that was going to require you to put on a whole lot of people that you don't have at that point in time to deliver it?
No, we were fine then, actually. It actually wasn't really that much different from a regular project. But what actually happened was that they told me that they wanted, like, I never gave them a budget or price or anything for the app. They just said, like, they just gave me the contract and they said, like, it's $370,000. I'm like, because before they went to me, they had talked to, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 other companies that were local to them. They were in like the Michigan area, and I guess they got quoted from the other ones like a high price or something. I don't know, but they just gave me the contract and said $370,000, and I'm like, okay, like, yeah. I don't know why they picked that, but.
And for you could work with it, and you've got enough stuff.
Yeah, we had some leeway.
I'm like, maybe the listeners can hear the kind of hesitation in my voice, but I'm like, you clearly just don't see any blockages, because there's a lot of businesses out there who are listening, and small businesses around the world who are struggling every day. But you've just left school and very quickly have started to generate some good revenue, build a business, employ a lot of people. And from what I can guess, like, you don't see downside. You just go.
I don't, and that's true. Like, I think that one of the biggest things as to why we've been able to keep growing and growing is that every time that we've had a down period, which I think is just part of life in general, with whether it's business, relationships, whatever it is, we always have down periods. And every time I had a down period, I said, like, if we're having this now, I know I can get back out of it later at some point. Mm-hmm. And like, for example, with the Costa Rica thing, I pretty much like I literally had no money while I was in a foreign country. My Spanish was okay. And just to give an example of that story, right? Mm-hmm. So I paid everyone, all the employees and everything. I'm thinking we're getting this $50K. And then after a few days, I realized we're not getting it. So I have like $60 cash on me, and I'm staying at a hostel in Costa Rica in Costa Rica. Mm-hmm. And then in the bank account, there's like, I don't know, around negative $500.
Ouch.
And then I'm like, okay, well, I either have to find a new deal or something. And I was about to run out of money for the hostel. It was like $15 a night, and I have $60.
Yeah.
And then like a few nights before I'm about to run out of money, like when I have around $60 left, I'm like, I walk out to the bar area of the hostel, and then there's like some people there, and I'm just like talking. They just start talking to me because I'm American, and then one of them says, "Hey, we're having like a pool, like a friend gathering at our pool tomorrow. Do you want to come?" So I'm like, "Okay, sure." So I take this taxi up to the mountains, like 30 minutes away, and I go to the place, and they have like some party at the night during the nighttime and everything. And then the wife of the house says to me like, "Oh, you can just sleep in our guest house tonight." So I'm like, "Okay, sure." So I sleep in the guest house, and then like the next day, like they make me food. Yeah. Where's this going? They make me food and everything, and they're like, "Oh, you can just stay here as long as you want." And I'm like, what? Like, I didn't give any hints or suggestions of my situation. I never even told them what I did business wise, and then they just invite me to stay. So I ended up staying there for a week, and they were showing me around Costa Rica and everything. And then, by the end of that week, around that point, like a week after that had happened, I was able to close the next deal, and it was fine. But I think that if I wasn't thinking positively, like I would not have been able to get to that point, because I would have just been sitting in my hostel, like crying my eyes out, like complaining,
Naivety in youth is a wonderful thing, Chris. Mate, tell me, wrap some numbers around where the business is at today, which is, where are we at? September 2016.
So as of August, we've had over $6 million in revenue for this year. I'm not sure if I should say how much we've had for September yet.
Go for it,
but
mate. Just throw caution to the wind. There's no one listening.
Yeah, I mean, we've had this month. We've had around $1 million in revenue so far this month, and we're actually slowing down more for what we're doing with Appsitude. I'm having my friend D-Punch, or not just friend but business partner. He's our CMO right now. He's going to be taking over more of Appsitude in the coming months, because I'm actually working on a new startup called Kaza, which is going to be my full-time thing very soon.
You lost interest, mate. You lost interest in the apps.
No, Kaza is still going to be. It's still going to be related to tech and apps, but Kaza, like this concept is like really like every time I wake up or I go to sleep and I wake up, I'm just thinking about it, and I haven't had that feeling for
3 weeks
most of the time. 3 weeks. No, but I feel like super passionate about it, and I cannot say that for most things. Like,
what is it? What's the premise of Kaza?
So there's a few different angles, and the basic level, it's a construction tech company. When you go deeper than that, it's a 3D printing house company where we also have a platform that you can design and build your own custom house through the platform, and then our Kaza team, our company then builds out the house.
It is. I don't understand that. So it's an online what is it? An app or a website, or it's actually a bricks and mortar business?
So it's not out yet. But I mean, on one hand, it's a construction company, but then on the other, it's a construction company that has an app that you can design your own house, and then like
3D printed,
whatever it is that you design. Yeah, 3D printed.
Why not? What excites you about that?
Well, we did a lot of research and investigating on it, and we realized that it's from an eco-friendly standpoint, it's pretty much the most eco-friendly way that you can build a house. There's like during the construction phases, we assemble it. We build it in a factory, and then we assemble it on the site. So they're kind of like modular homes, except the 3D printing allows us to have almost no waste, because it's all exact. So there's not like leftover stuff that just doesn't get used. And then also the houses are able to be extremely durable from like a natural disaster proof perspective. And we're able to build it with materials that we can't usually build in construction. So it's a world-changing concept is how I look at it.
Tell me, I just want to go back to Appsitude, which, by the way, you said it's an interesting name. I think it's one of the hardest business names to pronounce that I've come across. So do you wish you'd called it something else? Yeah,
I actually do. I wish at least I spelled it differently. Because I've had some because naturally people pronounce it Appsitude, and I think I would normally pronounce it Appsitude as well, but for whatever reason I was thinking that deeply in it when I did it.
You had other things to worry about, backpackers hostels in Costa Rica and things. You are a virtual company in the sense that you are based in San Francisco with how many staff around the world?
64 right now.
64. Based in how many countries roundabout?
Maybe 7 or 8, because a lot of our guys actually travel. So like our project manager, Sarah, she's one of our project managers. She's in Scotland right now. She's in between Scotland and Canada a lot. But since everyone works remotely, I encourage people to travel. We have a development office of 20 developers in Ukraine, and then also German and American developers. But probably 7 or 8 countries.
I speak a lot about outsourcing on this show, and I think, for businesses, most businesses, I think, should be looking at that world a lot more closely. In fact, I'm taking a business tour to the Philippines in late November. You're doing it at an extreme level. You've got 60 plus people in 7 countries. What's the secret to managing them?
So, the way I see it is you get the managers to manage them, and then you have a manager that manages the managers. It's all about scaling up properly. I did everything from the perspective, like, since it wasn't a company where I just got funding and I just had whatever money to just go, oh, okay, I hired 50 people all at once. I had to hire people as we gained more revenue. So there's never a point where we just hired like 20 people all at once. I was able to always make sure that whenever we're hiring people, I can get someone to manage them properly and then expand, and then if I need to train someone else to manage, then have another manager, and then just kind of scaling it from there. Like, and even the same with virtual assistants. Like, I just post a task on Basecamp, or, our project management software. I say, please research 100 investment funds based in China or something like that. And then the manager that manages some of our virtual assistants will then assign it to one of them, and I can just post any wish list task I want, and then they just automatically get on it.
Just automatically get on it. You haven't... What's your approach to business? So many questions, Chris, so little time, because you've gone and read Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. I understand you read Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. You didn't finish school. You haven't been to business college. You haven't had time to attend the plethora of conferences and events out there for budding business owners. So what is your approach to business when you're running a company of 60 plus people? What's the mindset?
My mindset is that I want to do it really, and I really think it is the mindset that, it's the mindset that leads to everything else. And my mindset has been, since I dropped out, I said, well, what happened was when I dropped out, I said to myself, I'm not normal now. I said,
you're not normal
I'm
now?
Yeah.
Like it.
And it was like that, like law, like that mental barrier in my head, because before then I said, maybe I can make $3K a month with my own online business. Maybe I can make $5K or $10K. And then at one point I said to myself, I'm going to become a billionaire. Each time, like, I just keep, whatever I do when it comes to business, it's relating to, like, I need to keep thinking big and making sure that at the same time I'm like still everything is happening in a realistic way where I'm not just like blindly thinking, oh, I'm going to do this and then being silly. Like, it has to be within the capabilities that you have. But if you don't think that way in the first place, then you're just going to stay in the cycle of, having a pretty good business, but not like a, $10 million company or something. But if you want to do that, then you have to keep thinking that you're going to be doing that. And then it will just start happening.
Do you have a mentor?
It'll be more than just happening. No, I don't. But, when I met Peter, actually, I kind of like sort of like looking to him almost like a mentor. And he would have been actually the first person I can't consider him a mentor, like, because I've hung out with him only a few times. And I'm not like, I didn't say, oh, can you be my mentor? But I could see potentially him being maybe one in the future, but totally. As of the past, I've not had a specific mentor. I've had people I get advice from that work with me, but not like, some old magical wizard that, like Peter, that has done a lot of really Dumbledore, not like Peter.
So therefore, okay, so you got people that you call when you need advice. Do you have a board of wise old directors with a little bit of silvery grey hair, or?
So I've had different people throughout the past 2 years that, well, for example, Fernando, he's our COO, and whenever I have ideas on things, I always pass it through him. So, but he's a business partner, so I don't necessarily consider him a mentor, but, I have people. What I do is this, like I come up with an idea, I pass it to Fernando, maybe Deeponch, our CMO, and he's the one. So he had an app called Shifu, which he sold for $8 million in January of this year to Paytm, which is it's like $1 billion company in India. And so I'll pass it through Fernando and Deeponch, and then because I always want them to be like the devil's advocate. If I have some crazy idea, I talk to them and I go, hey, can you make sure that this is can you make sure? Like, if I really believe it's going to happen, then I'm like, even if they say no or something, I'm still going to do it. But I always want to get their feedback just to hear what the other perspectives are. And just hearing their two perspectives is enough to make me go, okay, like it really helps with the feedback loop.
Yeah, right. Interesting story, buddy. I tell you where my head's at right now. About 3 weeks ago, I had a guy on the show who had, in order to launch his video production company in Australia, he spent 2 years creating what ended up being 8 viral videos that were fully manufactured fake ones. Right, you might have seen them: a guy running into a tornado and taking a selfie, a shark attack in Sydney Harbour, right?
Yeah. And I don't think I saw them. That's
Oh, they're amazing. And he's gone and created these literally manufactured viral videos to launch his business. He's fooled everyone. And it was a brilliant marketing strategy because it launched his business, and now he's just doing big numbers. And I sit here listening to you, and I'll go back another step. I interviewed a Texan real estate agent about a year ago who was selling a ranch in Texas for $1 billion, $994 million, right? And I was talking to him, and I was looking for that bit of magic from him, saying, how do you sell a ranch like that? How do you get that listing? And he the whole time just kept on saying, it's just about relationships. And I'm like, I'm a bit let down. I thought there was going to be this magical kind of business or marketing insight. And now I'm talking to you, and I'm looking for that bit of magic. And it doesn't necessarily have to exist, but it's like you've just so, I don't even know what the word is, simply gone and created what is now a business that's doing $1 million a month in less than 2 years. And I don't know, half of me is going, is he real? Is he not telling us something? Is he keeping his secret sauce to himself? Do you know what I mean?
The way that I see it is, because I understand what you mean about the secret sauce aspect, and I think I'll give an example, and then I'll go back into that. Like, I've met people before, like before I started, making money or anything like that. Like, I'd meet these kids, like, or I'd read these stories online and stuff. And I remember I met this one guy who had like some business of like Facebook likes or something, but he was like 14 or 15, and he was like making $10K a month, and he was talking to me like it was normal. Like I think I was like 15 or 16 at the time, and I'm talking to him on Skype, and he's like just telling me about his stuff and he was like showing me the revenues and all that, and pretty much all profit because he was using bots for the Facebook likes. And I was thinking like, okay, at the time I wanted to be a pharmacist, and I'm like, this kid's making $10K a month and he's 14 years old, and he is, making more than what my cousin who went to school for 6 years to be a pharmacist is doing. And he's like on his computer, like going to school every day and just making that kind of money. And I thought like, and I remember looking at him like, what is the secret or something? And because he's just talking to me like it's a normal day-to-day thing. And I thought, and I realized like, if you kind of normalize the concept, and this isn't the key to success or something, but if you normalize the idea that you can make $1 million a year or a month or however much it is, and you just believe in it. And it sounds cheesy though, because it's not just believing in it, because there's a lot of people that are crazy and believing in it and when they don't act upon it. But if you, the way I see it is, if you continue to like, if you fail and you learn from your mistakes and you keep moving, and then if you fail again, you learn from your mistakes, you're going to hit something at some point. is how I see it. Like, it's like almost like, I don't want to say it's like a law of the universe or something, but it's almost like, okay, if you did this business before, you learn these mistakes, maybe you learn don't hire someone that acts like this or this, that, whatever. And you combine that each time you start your new venture or business or whatever it is, then you eventually are going to, if you're learning from your mistakes, you're going to hit the point where you already know what to do. And then you will just succeed from that point. And that's why I think, like, it's obviously more than just reading the books that I read, than like learning from reading the blogs and all that kind of stuff that taught me what I learned. I don't want to just say it's mindset, because you have to act upon it. But for me, at least for me personally, it had to go with me just acting upon what my mindset said. And then things just happen. Like, yeah, relationships matter, but also other things, because you meet people that have all the relationships in the world, the biggest billionaires ever, and they don't do anything with them. It's a matter of like a combination of having the relationships and then leveraging them and all that kind of stuff. But yeah.
Love it, buddy. That's what I was looking for. That's what I was looking for. Normalize the idea, believe in it, act on it, and learn from your mistakes, and continue to pivot, if as the language in the, what's that book, the Lean Startup would say, so that you're just continuing to evolve. Brilliant. Well said.
Thank you. And I mean, to add on, I like to put it like this. I came to a point where I think I was actually scared to become a millionaire, to become rich, with that kind of concept in my head. And what I mean is, I would say, like, okay, I thought that there had to be some kind of a limit or like a time frame. Like, I have to be in my business for 2 or 3 years before it makes sense to become $1 million company. Right. And that's kind of like, I don't know if it was just maybe it was just by luck or something that happened in February, where we had that first really, really big $370K contract, because that is really the kind of the pivoting point beyond what happened before, that really made me go, okay, like, there is no, you have to go step by step by step. You could go from step 1 to step 30 in, 2 minutes or something if you if this or that happens. It doesn't have to be step 1, step 2, step 3. And I think that I just was able to skip those steps in my head of where I have to be by this or that age. And then all of a sudden I just broke those mental barriers, and I just go for the big things.
Good on you, buddy. Well, don't read any more books. Don't attend any conferences. Don't read any blogs. Listen to any podcasts, whatever. Just keep doing what you're doing, because clearly it's working. What do you spend your money on, Chris?
I like that question. One thing was, starting the investment fund that we did, which, I haven't really bought anything crazy. Like last year I bought a used Lexus for $21,000 cash,
Good
and
on you. Cash.
I'm not, I really don't know. Like, I'm really just trying to hold on to it and like make sure I do something smart, because I don't want to just start buying a bunch of stupid stuff. Yeah. And then James Altucher, he talks about when you make a lot of money, just hold on to it for a year or two, and like don't do anything with it.
I was just going to quote him, because he's lost it and made it, how many times over.
That's funny.
So you're sitting on it. What's your scorecard? To say I'm doing okay then?
Scorecard. Okay. Well, this is an example of my shift in mindset. 2 or 3 years ago, when I said I wanted to become a millionaire or something, it's because I wanted to just buy a bunch of, stupid crap, whatever, have a super amazing car and all that kind of stuff. And then when I actually started making money, I realized like I just wanted to make more money. And then now it's gotten to the point where it's like, I don't care about making more money. Like I need to do some of the big ventures I want to do. But now for me, it's like, I want to just change the world. And it's in terms of the scorecard, like what makes me, it's whatever is keeping me happy and excited. The idea that, when you wake up each morning, you feel excited to be doing what you're doing. It's like, there's the quote from Steve Jobs. I don't remember how, I'm going to butcher the quote, but he said something like, if you're doing something for too long and you feel like you're not doing it, he said that whenever he felt like he wasn't doing something he liked doing for too many days, then he knew he had to change something. And I think that is like the simplest way to look at it, is by trusting your gut and going, okay, like as long as you're enjoying this or that, then keep doing it. If not, then, change. And that's why, I'm changing into this new Kaza thing, because that's what excites me when I wake up in the morning and I go, okay, I want to, like I just
Yeah, gotcha.
can't wait to just start thinking about it.
Yeah, well, mate, I wish you all the luck with it. Chris, thanks for reaching out for an interview, mate. It's been really fascinating. And despite being the youngest person to be on this show for the last 7 years, you may well be one of the wisest. And I'm going to follow what you do with interest. How do old people get in touch with someone as young as you? Are you on this thing called Twitter, or is that way too old school?
I have Twitter, but I don't really use it. I mean, if someone wants to, for the podcast, I'll just give out my email. If you want to email me personally, it's Chris, CHRIS, at Appsitude.com. So APPSITUDE.com. Chris at Appsitude.com.
Good on you, man. Great. Well, I hope many people email you and say what a great job you're doing. Listeners, I encourage you to do that. Hey, Chris, thanks for sharing, buddy.
Thank you, Tim. Have a great one.
Well, there you go, team. Young whippersnapper, Chris Kelsey of Appsitude.com. Oh, it's a tough name. Coming up, I do share my top 3 attention grabbers from that fireside chat with Chris, plus some feedback from a listener that was touched by a recent couple of episodes. But first, here's a word from 2 businesses that want to help you build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it deserves to be. Support for this show comes from WebCentral, who are pretty damn good at driving traffic and leads your way. Verity Ma, their marketing head honcho, recently drew an interesting analogy for what a website without traffic is like.
Your website is a billboard in the desert if you don't have any traffic coming to it. So similar to having an advertisement out in the Sahara Desert, if you don't have any traffic driving past it, then people aren't going to know anything about your business. It's a bit of a waste of time. So yes, it's important, and the first step is to get that billboard, which is your website. But past that, you need to actually get found, and then from getting found, get leads into your business. So you need to get traffic or cars driving past your website to actually know what you do, what your business offers, and how you're different to your competitors. Because your competitors are out there getting traffic to their websites.
Do camels count as traffic? WebCentral, helping your website get found fast. Visit webcentral.com.au for exclusive listener offers. The Small Business Big Marketing Show is also grateful for the support of Aussie-owned business DesignCrowd.com, the world's #1 custom design marketplace where it's beautifully simple and cheap. I love cheap. To get a design you love, guaranteed. I asked founder Alec Lynch what problems Design Crowd solved for us small business owners.
Buying design has traditionally been an expensive process, a slow process, and a risky process. Design Crowd's crowdsourcing solution fixes those problems.
DesignCrowd.com, a faster, cheaper, more creative way to get a custom logo, graphic, or print design for your business. For a special VIP offer that can save you up to $100 on your first design, visit designcrowd.com/Timbo. Righto, my top 3 attention grabbers from my chat with Chris Kelsey of Appsitude.com. Number 1, think big. Yeah. Why do you have to wait a predetermined amount of time for something good or big to happen in your business? Why do we have to wait a predetermined amount of time for success? I like Chris's attitude. Think big. Attention grabber number 2, normalise big ideas, said Chris. Then believe in them, then act on them, then make changes when they don't entirely work out. Don't just drop them. I like that. Normalise the idea of thinking big. Attention grabber number 3, ask yourself this killer question to kind of rejig your mindset around your business and your marketing. What would your younger self do in this situation, or how would your younger self approach the marketing of your business? I love that. Looking back when you were young and free and had no commitments, throwing caution to the wind, what would you do? It might uncover some really interesting thinking. That's what grabbed my attention. What grabbed yours? head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/332 and leave me your comment. Righto, time for a listener question. This came from Adam Scherer. It's a nice name. Thanks for the question, Adam. He says, Timbo, Adam, we are a very small and very new business currently operating out of our basement. Oh, I like that. I can smell the excitement already. I think we have a great product with a unique advertising dilemma. Well, we love an advertising dilemma. Dilemma. Maybe that's what it is. Our Pass Down Journal, that's the name of the product, passdownjournal.com is where you'll find it, is a high-quality hardcover journal filled with life interview questions. Ooh, I'm liking it already. I love a good interview question. Our sales pitch that seems to work is that it makes an amazing, unique gift idea for mums, dads and grandparents. When it's all filled out, you'll have a family heirloom to treasure forever. I get the idea. Get mum, dad, grandparents to fill out all these questions about their life, and then that sticks around forever as a pass-me-down in the family. I like it. Adam says the problem I'm having is selling the idea that customers will treasure the book after their loved ones have passed. Okay. I could be wrong, but I feel like that's the most compelling scenario to evoke in a customer's mind. Yeah, well, I can get that. I hesitate to push heavily on that idea because I can't imagine the fear of death as a big motivating factor for buying a gift. I feel like there has to be a solution to this puzzle, but I'm stumped. Love the show. Thanks for all the great tips. Adam Scherer, co-founder of the Pass Down Journal. Adam, it's a wonderful marketing conundrum. It's not an advertising conundrum. It's a marketing communications conundrum, if we were to be specific. And what a great product. Now, I've looked at this question as if I had to market the Pass Down Journal. Here's 3 things that I would do. Number 1, get over the idea that its real value comes when the person has passed on. I think the value exists right now. My mum turned 90 last week and my niece created a wonderful video in which she interviewed mum about her life. So effectively, I'm guessing some of the questions she would have asked are the kind of questions that would appear in the Pass Down Journal. We watched the video at mum's 90th birthday party and the answers gave a great insight into her life. We didn't need to wait for mum to pass on before listening and enjoying and gaining interest from her answers. So I think there is obviously value in it right now. Number 2, I'd create a podcast, little bit biased, in which I interviewed elderly people about their lives using the questions from the Pass Down Journal. You know, I think certainly in Western society, elderly people aren't given the status they deserve, and you know, they just carry the wisdom and the stories that will keep people interested for a very, very long time. And I think it's incumbent on us to extract those stories. And a podcast sponsored by the Pass Down Journal in which you do that, ask those questions, I think it'd be beautiful. Idea number 3, if I was to market the Pass Down Journal, I'd do joint ventures with aged care facilities where I'd run information sessions or workshops, really, with residents and their loved ones using the questions out of the Pass Down Journal as the basis for discussion. I reckon that'd be a fantastic thing to do in aged care facilities. Back to my mum, she's in one. You know, they get together of an afternoon, have a cracker and a piece of cheese and chew the fat. I think they'd really love to be asked some of the questions that exist in the Pass Down Journal. So, Adam, I think you got a great product. I'd love to see it, mate. Feel free to send me one. P.O. Box 989, Mount Eliza, 3930, Victoria, Australia. Hey, love being seated. It's a bit cheeky, isn't it? But I also love a good interview question. Team, if you have got a marketing question, head over to iTunes, leave me a listener review, drop your question in there with your website. I'll give you a bit of a plug and I will answer it on an upcoming show. Now, who says this isn't a family show? We had Russ Porteous earlier talking about his time away in the Philippines with me earlier this year. Now we've got a note here from Di Porteous, which I received a couple of months ago. She says, "Hi, Tim." Hello, Di. I met Di last week at a seminar I spoke at. Lovely lady. I don't have a question. I just wanted to thank you. I've been listening to your podcast for a little while now. Oh, you're the one, Di. Thank you. And I've been enjoying the information and the message that you're sharing. However, oh, gee, I get nervous when there's a however. Oh, do I read? I'll read on. However, episodes 320 and 321 with Orange Sky Laundry have been a blessing. Oh, phew. Insert sigh of relief. A few weeks ago, our eldest daughter went on an inner-city Melbourne mission, spending time with the homeless in a food shelter, and has been forever changed by the people she met. Yeah, I know that feeling, Di. I have sent your podcast for her to listen to also. Thank you. Now I've got 4 listeners, or 3. I don't know. We'll call it 3. Thank you for sharing these stories, says Di, and for showing how small things can profoundly impact our community if we just look for opportunity. So true. Those little 1%ers. It's the same in everything, I think, in business. Those little 1%ers can make all the difference. Love your podcast. Thanks heaps. Kind regards, Di Porteous. Well, thank you, Di. Yeah, those 2 episodes certainly touched my heart. I continue to have dialogue with the Orange Sky guys and help out. And it's just good for the soul, you know. When you're making a difference to other people's lives, it makes a difference to your life. So thank you, Di. Love your work. Woo! Well, there you go. That almost wraps up another episode of the Small Business Big Marketing Show. Got some good interviews coming up, though. Next week, we hear from Ant Morell, the founder of Bounce, which is an amazing kids' indoor playground that's taken Australia by storm. Funnily enough, I worked with Ant in a previous life, lost contact with him, and he's bounced back. Right there. See what I did? Hey, do you remember that chat I had with Steve Sims from the exclusive LA-based concierge service Bluefish? It was an absolute ripper. He'd just come back from Florence, where he'd arranged for one of his clients to have a silver service meal at the feet of Michelangelo's statue of David.
So I look in my Rolodex to see what I've done that's on the starting rope of that, and I contact them and I go, hey, I want my end goal to be this. Who do you know in that circle? And they go, well, I don't know him, but I know him. Can you make a phone call? Just tell them that I'm for real and get me that one step closer. And sometimes you may have to go through 3 or 4 steps. But then once you've done this a while and you've built up the credibility, I've worked with people in Rome. I've worked with people in Florence. Never worked with anyone in the academia. Never worked with anyone within Bocelli's camp before. But I had worked with someone in Poland that had worked with an event that Bocelli was at. I made a call to them. They made a call to the Bocelli family. Bingo, I got my leg in there.
This is 6 degrees of separation between you and anyone in the world. There, you can get to that person with 6 calls.
As long as, and this is the thing that you've got to maintain, you're credible. This is the only thing I ever tell my kids. Do what you say you're going to do. Okay, that's the only thing. If you do that, you're credible. You may not be the richest person in the world. You may not be the smartest person in the world, but you're trustworthy, you're credible, and you're reliable. And when you ask for something and someone knows you are, that's when you start getting the goal.
So did the academia charge a fortune?
The good thing is they didn't go over the top because they bought into the dream. So they were sold on the whole passion of the event and the exposure it would give the academia and how beautifully refined. Having Andrea Bocelli turn up to sing was also a beautiful thing for them. So, yeah, they bought into the whole dream. So I remember when they were looking at it, they were thinking, well, we have so many people come through in for an hour. You're going to need the academia for 3 hours. This is how much money we usually make over those 3 hours. Yeah, but it's 9 o'clock at night. You're not open then, so this is free money. yeah, that's true. So maybe we could. So there was that little bit of negotiating. So I would say that I actually got it for far cheaper than it would have been. But at the same extent, everyone bought into the passion way before they did the price tag.
Geez, that was a good interview. One of my favourites. I'll put it right up there in my top 10 because in that episode he actually shares the world's best referral marketing idea. Well, at least I think it is. Hey, if you want to find out how much he paid and to hear my full interview with Steve, plus hundreds more, head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com or go ahead and subscribe free on iTunes or your favourite podcast app. I'd love you to do that. Then you'll never miss another episode. Hey, I'd love to hear from you. So feel free to email me, tim@timreid.com.au, R-E-I-D, or you can hit me up on Twitter, Timbo Reid. That's my Twitter handle. I've got a Facebook page where I share the lighter side of marketing. Small Business Big Marketing is the Facebook page. And I've got a forum. Head over to the forum, smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, hit the forum button, give me $49, and I'll answer your marketing questions every day. That's got to be good. Be sure to check out designcrowd.com/Timbo. They're an ideal way to get any marketing touch points designed for that beautiful business of yours. Plus, there's an exclusive listener offer waiting for you where you can save up to $100. And remember, avoid your website being that billboard in the desert by checking out WebCentral's Do It For Me, aka DIFM, website package over at webcentral.com.au/Timbo. If you loved the Small Business Big Marketing Show, then go and pay it forward by letting another business owner know about it. I would love that. Until next week, I'm Timbo Reid, always have been, always will be. Thanks for listening to the Small Business Big Marketing Show. May your marketing be the best marketing. Bye for now.